Welcome back to Let's Talk Retail, the podcast of the Philippine Retailers Association. It's been 1 year that we've had Let's Talk Retail, and we've even won an award for it. Thank you very much for supporting us all these 12 months that we've had Let's Talk Retail, the podcast. Now, if you want to learn more and get the freshest and insightful news, please know the drill, subscribe button, and the Philippine Retailers Association YouTube channel. Now, we have another exciting podcast, and this time we have another F&B guest. Okay, so to start the year right, we have invited the newly minted president of Max Group Incorporated, the Philippines' largest casual dining group and operator of such iconic brands as Max Restaurant, Pancake House, Yellow Cab Pizza Company, Krispy Kreme, Jamba Juice, Denshaw's Teriyaki Bowl, and Sizzling Steak. He has spent over 3 decades steering some of the world's most distinguished companies across a diverse range of industries, elevating world-class brands, reimagining businesses, and driving revolutionary transformation. His first 20 years were spent in the corporate world, specifically in fast-moving consumer goods. Later on, he assumed executive roles in flagship Filipino companies as his means of giving back to our country. Ladies and gentlemen, let's Talk Retail, Mr. Ariel Fermin, the president of Max Group Incorporated. Hi, Ariel. Nice to see you. Welcome to Let's Talk Retail.
Hello, everyone. Hello, CJ. Kumusta?
Hello, Ariel. Mabuti and nice of you. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. You are our third F&B guest. So let's start off with today's podcast. Let's start off with your journey. Okay, after UP, what was your route?
All right. So, well, good afternoon or good day again, everyone. I came from UP, Chemical Engineering, started out in Procter & Gamble. So I was wearing lab gowns. I was in laboratories. I was at the plant. We were doing the category of soap bars, right? So in Procter & Gamble, it's really one of the better ways to kind of get off college because it's in itself, it's like postgraduate school. In P&G, I've had the benefit of really learning how the Procter mind works, as we said before, where you speak with clarity and brevity, with your communication intact in that case, no? So that's for Procter. Afterwards, ano ba nangyari? Let's see. Oh, Coca-Cola came calling and said that, hey, we're looking for a marketing person. And I go, I'm not a marketing person. I'm an engineer. I know nothing about marketing. And then Coca-Cola said, that's exactly what we need. Someone who knows nothing about marketing, because the marketeers, at least back then, were too bookish in terms of how to do it. So they wanted someone who was crazy enough to do marketing his own way and who really had a DNA for innovation, which of course I had because I was working on Safeguard, Cami, and Ivory amongst such brands. So in Procter, and we innovated a lot. Remember that I was in the lab, right? 90% of the time I was, anyway, I was looking at Staphylococcus aureus, whatever bacteria.
And smelling armpits. I read somewhere.
Smelling armpits. Oh my God. That was a very joyful moment for me. All right. So in Coca-Cola, my first days of marketing. So coming from R&D, I had an opportunity to head a category, as I've had an opportunity to head R&D as well for Procter. So in Coke, we were all taught that the very very basic philosophy of everything markets, everything communicates, and let the brand shine through, and that there was no value in sameness. It's just one product, but it kind of resonates very deeply in every part of the world. So you kind of appreciate brands that way. And we innovated a lot. We did Powerade, RTO, Royal Trollridge, and so on and so forth. So those were cool times for me because I learned a lot from Coke as well, from marketing point of view. And then to cut the long story short, Unilever came knocking and then they go, hey, Ariel, would you want to join us in marketing too? I said, I'm doing marketing right now. And then, yeah, but this is different. This is marketing and sales head. I said, I know nothing about sales. I really know nothing. I know product, yes. I know marketing. Now I do. Yeah, of course. Of course, I'm oversimplifying this, yes. And then Unilever said, hey, that's exactly what we need because our guys right now in sales, it's like it's the same thing. And we want to get to the next level. And obviously, get some stuff from you on, what you've learned so far in your career. And so I did make that leap, being the head of sales. In Unilever, I really learned how to, what do you call that? How to make money. Because that was in sales, right? In product, you innovate. In marketing, kind of, make your brand resonate,
Right.
In Unilever, because you're exposed to the modern trade, general trade, which of course our members here are very much familiar with, you learn how money goes around and how you want to participate in that value chain, so to speak, so that it's fair to everyone, for everyone. All right, so I did that for a while. I enjoyed riding trucks, going to palengkes, sabit ka ng Nor sachet and whatever, and ladies' choice dressings, lahat yan. And when you go to modern trade, when you supermarkets, medyo forma ka, naka-gel ka, pero huwag mong gawin yan pag nasa palengke. It's quite different. So you really understand that's how the world works, and makibagay ka because that's an ecosystem that you live in, and you just have high respect for everyone who does his job in the trade. That's what I learned in Unilever. All right, and then after being head of R&D, head of marketing and sales in Unilever, Nike came, and offered me some sneakers and said, do you want to hop in and kind of call the shots here? So I go, whoa. And Nike happens to be my most favorite brand of all, ever since I was a kid, because I play a lot of hoops. Not that I can afford it before, but obviously it's aspirational for me. So in Nike, I was a country director. I was in my mid-30s. And there, I really felt that I made it. I mean, dreams come true. And as you can imagine, we're in Portland. We're in the campus, as we call it. That's the headquarters, almost every quarter. And we were really hobnobbing with the athletes there, et cetera, et cetera. You were choosing the assortment that you'd bring here to the Philippines. And what you bring there is everything that you've learned from the previous companies that you've been in. Product excellence from Procter & Gamble, the respect for brand in Coca-Cola, and how the value chain works, so that you bring that all and really manage a company in Nike, because you're not looking at anyone here locally. You have bosses that are elsewhere, but pretty much you move at your own pace. And that really underscores the importance of being self-motivated, because even if no one was whipping you at the back and do this, do that, right, you were actually self-motivated into moving your organization in a way that was faster than industry, or faster than your competitors, even faster than your peers in another market. Correct. So that's the kind of passion that kind of it gets instilled in you in Nike, right? Of course, you master the fundamentals, you just do it, and those kinds of mantras are right there. All right, and then after having done that collectively, say for 15, 20 years, I felt that I've learned a lot. And that was a time when I was kind of historic from a country standpoint, and personally I felt that I can do more, but this time for our country, the Philippines, because I was doing work for, not that it was bad, it was really an honor, but I was doing work for some other MNCs, but the Philippines also had to, well, can go up. So I felt that I could contribute. So I went to JFC, and actually, yeah, JFC knocked as well. Hey, did you want to do Greenwich and Chowking for us? Which, of course, I served as president for Greenwich and Chowking for a while. What I learned in the past 4 MNCs, I applied it full throttle in GFC, particularly the ones in Nike, because in Nike we're told how to tell stories. When you present in Nike, I forgot to tell you, it's just one big picture of an athlete and with a big number, say, I don't know, 5 billion US, something like that. And then you could talk for hours. It was storytelling. And then you apply that in what you do in retail, which is the space that we're all in right now. And you kind of say that storytelling in our field, in our domain right now, is store-y, storytelling. So that's how you
Nice.
apply it. That's why when you look at what we've done in Nike before, or at least what you see right now, even if for today, you'd see just a huge image of an athlete, and you'd know what's going on inside. You'd understand. So I understood there the discipline and the science of retail, on how to get people in, how to get the basket size up, service, etc., which we applied in full force in JFC. And because JFC is already huge, was already huge by then, but the art of storytelling was kind of lost back then. So we kind of refined that a bit so that it goes back to the brand, so it becomes a little more sustainable and not just transactional. So that's what we learned back then, and that's what kind of worked on. Good times as well. And then MVP Group came knocking as well. And the funny thing is that how perhaps at least the way it was told to me is that we've been observing you for a while, in different industries, and that's, I think, how they do things, and just kind of layer the pipeline, so to speak, of talent, because you kind of look at what's on the other side, who's doing what, because you don't necessarily have to get someone who's from your industry, because you kind of you learn a lot from the other guy.
Right.
I know nothing about telco. In fact, I know nothing about smartphones. I know nothing. I'm still a landline user when that happened. So, laging ganon, like I know nothing about that. But then again, perhaps it's what I put in, and I add value to you, and you add value to me. So, really had an honor. Really was an honor to be working with the senior management out there. So shout out to the folks in PLDT and Smart, where I was head of consumer business. And just challenging times as well, just amazing times as well during those periods. All right, so that's a Filipino company, all right, still based here, JFC Telco. I want to be true to my calling and I guess my mission. Kasi ganito pala, CJ, when you're like 35, you have that mission na.
Yung Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right. So I go, all right. So, and as fate would have it, MGI came in calling. Someone from MGI called me up and said, hey, we're looking for someone to be COO for Maxis and Krispy Kreme at that moment. I said, I'm a big fan. I'm certainly a big fan, and I know your group, and I have high respect for this group. The family, Trota and Fuentebella families. I have, of course, CJ. Once you have an OG in your hands, you're an OG for life, right? So you're an OG lifer. So I said, yeah, let's do this, because honestly, my cup was full, and I wanted to kind of pour. I want to pour, and I guess I poured and poured and poured, and I guess some people were nourished. Some people appreciated that, and that's where we are today. So I really appreciate, the family, Trota and Fuentebella families, of course, our board for, entrusting to me, just this responsibility at this capacity for MGI at this point. So then long drawn story, I know, but that's how it was, CJ. So
okay, that journey is so interesting. 7 companies. Okay, now if I'm going to ask you, give me 3 words that will describe your journey. What are the 3 key learnings? And then we're going to talk about being in a family but publicly traded corporation. 3 words first.
All right. Be a sponge.
Okay, that's 1.
Oh, that's like 4 words.
No. 3 descriptors. Mali. 3 descriptors. Okay. Oh my God. 3 descriptors.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Be a sponge, right?
1.
A sponge. Soak it in. Master the fundamentals. The third one would be what got you here won't get you there.
Interesting. We'll go back to that. All right, later. All right. One more?
Oh,
3 words pala. Tama.
three thoughts. I said three, right?
Three. You got it. 3.
I think I said be a sponge,
Be a
master the
sponge.
fundamentals,
And what
and
got you
what got you
there?
here won't get you there.
That's
Right.
right. And that's interesting because you're known for innovation. Right. Now, let's talk about your last stop. Your 7th stop, Max Group. Family corporation, but now publicly traded.
Correct.
Did you have any concerns when you were coming in because the owners are still very much present?
When I came in, the owners, the family,
Yes.
they were very warm. At not one moment did they strike me as like imposing. In fact, I remember their designations before, of course, owners, right? They were coaches,
Okay.
right? And just brilliant coaches, very mindful. I remember, there wasn't, yeah, there were times when they had to say, they kind of rein me in and say, Ariel, dahan-dahan lang. Kasi I was kind of doing that.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
dahan lang, because our pace is quite different. And then that's where you kind of feel your way and you go, all right. So, but I appreciate how they've helped me design my way into my position right now, because obviously it wasn't overnight, right? The way they've designed it is that, and I think I haven't told you this story. I was Max's and Krispy Kreme COO, but those are two of the biggest brands. So,
Right.
so like, okay, that's quite solid. And then they elevated me to group COO, to who I am or what I am right now. So those are very well thought of progressive steps that frankly helped me understand the technical and the clinical ways on running the business. I know it's publicly listed. So is PLDT. So it's not quite. I'm quite familiar with that territory as well. And this is food, like JFC, right? So
Yes.
in
Jollibee's
that,
also.
correct. So in that, in public list, so I kind of get it. But aside from that, aside from the technical pieces, more importantly, it's the culture and the spirit, those things that are unwritten, that help me kind of get into it. All right, now I'm understanding this. Now I'm getting it. Now I can read the room better, as we say, right? And you say, all right, so perhaps this is the part where I go, or perhaps this is the part where I go, all right, so listen up, so on and so forth. So for the board, the principals, the owners to have come up with that plan is something that I give credit to them for, right? Because this is a plan that they thought of years ago. Because when MGI went public in 2014, they understood what it took to get us to the next level. The family, the board, and they talked about it, and they understood and they realized that at some point they will have to kind of professionalize, as we are now coming over, and kind of obviously add value, because that's the whole point of coming over. So this is the part where you balance continuity and renewal, not only in terms of how do you kind of position the brands and the products, etc. Okay, that's a technical part, but also continuity and renewal in terms of giving a nod to the very rich heritage that we have in MGI. So that's continuity, right? And respecting what has been done in the past and positioning it for success for the next generations to come. So in our minds, we are actually not just employees. We are responsible custodians. And that's how we frame it. If we're responsible custodians, then we're not going to be doing things for ourselves. We do things that are best for the company. And as I always say, do things in a way that our consumers would cherish. Do things in a way that our shareholders would say, good job, because we're publicly listed. But more importantly, do this in such a way that the founders would be proud of, because they built this from ground zero. And you got to respect that. I mean, Max's since 1945.
Right.
I mean, how would you not respect that? So it obviously hats off. And our job is to just continue what these the founders have started, and at some point leave it better than when you found it. Then that's legacy. Then that's like, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm not fighting this fight for myself. It wasn't just about whatever, it makes me feel well, but it really is about yeah, I think I added value, no? I think we're better now, no? So well, of course nothing's perfect, but hey, that's pretty much the mindset.
And I'm glad you talked about that because we have retailers who are family corporations and they're at the cusp of making decisions whether professional managers should come in, should the family members still be the one running the show. So what's your advice to our retailers who still run by the family? And then they ask you about advice to professional managers who would want to go into family-owned corporations. So let's start off with the family owners.
Oh well, for the owners who run their own businesses, mad respect to what you've done and are continuing to do with your business. It's always good to know what's out there, and because there's value in osmosis, intellectual osmosis, not only in terms of technical delivery of what he knows, what he brings, but also in terms of how it gets done. Because the leadership qualities of a professional,
Yes,
like you, CJ, like are quite structured. There's a certain system of play, as we say in Nike. There's a certain cadence that gets followed, and then every professional has gone through X number of experiences in Y number of companies, and just like me, they have a toolbox that they keep, or they have a cheat code in their back pocket that says, you know what, I recognize this. This happened already in Procter. And then you kind of, at that point, you don't really have to do a whole lot of thinking. Not that I am against thinking, of course I am for, but sometimes you have to rely on intuition. And what is intuition? Intuition is just it's just your experiences coming back and telling you that you recognize this pattern and you've done this before. Right? And it's like this book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, right? Thinking in like 3 seconds or less. Those are your experiences telling you that, hey, I recognize this pattern and I've done this before, and perhaps this will work here. Anyway, so that's for me. So there would be merit in looking at what's available out there. Now, as you do that, respectfully so, I think what's important also is to look the value system.
okay.
Because even in our own interviews with our own applicants, you've got the brightest. I mean, talagang matatalino, talagang whoa. We kid around, we go, buti hindi ko nakakasabayan to, baka hindi ako napili. Something like that, no? But right, but alam mo, malaking bagay talaga ang pagiging tao, right? Ang pagkapwa-tao. So we say the IQ, EQ, and all that. So that's very important too, because nothing gets done alone. Everything is done through teams, particularly in our environment at this point. It's not even a formal team. Our group has a lot of work teams that go, hey, it's the first time I'm meeting you. Hey, it's the first time meeting you, so on and so forth. And you got to get a guy who really understands the value of teamwork and really just understanding that leadership wasn't a function of titles. Because a natural leader would find people gravitating towards him. There's just a certain attraction that people would go, there's this warmth in this person, there's a little bit of charisma, there's a little bit of humor, and by the way, he kind of knows what he's saying, so let's do it. Right? Di ba may ganon?
Right.
Parang, but you can't follow a person, even, of course, being smart is, of course, a must, right? But you gotta have this person who kind of has the ability to pull people and say, hey, you know what? We need to work on this game plan on the go. What say you? So that's kind of my long answer to your question. So yeah, but
And
then again, yeah, go
that
ahead.
applies both to the owners and professional managers coming in.
That's true. That's true. Yes, because the professional managers coming in, ask yourselves if oh, this is what I ask myself.
What do you ask yourself?
Ask aside from the fact if there's fit, is very important. Of course, I won't belabor that point. Ask yourselves if your cup is full
Okay. And you want to pour.
and you want to pour. That's for me. I'm not so sure for the others, right? But that's for me. I cannot pontificate, but that's important to me because I experienced that because in other local companies prior to MGI where I was pouring. And my cup, yeah, it sometimes was poured on, etc. But more than anything, I was pouring. Pouring stuff I learned from Procter, Unilever, Coca-Cola, Nike. I was pouring.
But you didn't know Ubusan.
Because I read a lot also.
Okay. That's a good
Read a lot. Yeah. I read a lot. I read a lot of books, sports books. I read a lot of sports books. So my heart is very sporty, and then my mind is kind of whatever business. So I kind of blend that in, and you have something crazy like me. So anyways, back to the professional person coming in. Yeah, are you ready to pour? Because there has to be some selflessness, because you won't be getting as much as you normally would have in MNCs in terms of structured training and right? I mean, you go to Procter and you like it the first, at least before 1980s. Oops, that gave you my egg. Like a first,
Samson here.
you attend this, you attend that, before you know it, I'd go, hey, I haven't even worked, huh? Why am I? I don't know if you noticed. I said kanina, fresh from college, that would have been a perfect postgraduate school.
Yeah,
it's in my experience before. Right. So of course they were brainwashing us into how the Procter mind works. So now that I know that, so anyway, so going back to the question at hand, you want to pour, and it's important for you to embrace ambiguity.
That's nice.
All right. Embrace it. Don't fight it. And just sometimes, sa totoo lang, laugh it off. Because it's just what it is. Embrace it. Embrace your cactus. Embrace your cactus.
I love the answers to the elephant in the room questions. That's great.
I think you'll have to edit that.
No. That's, I think, very nice. And it's very real because their professional managers are looking for the next big thing. Where will they go? And where can they pour? Where can they help? Where can they pay it back? But when you entered the Max group, what was it about the family that interested you? That, let's say, whoa, what is it about Jim, Sharon, Carlene?
They're cool. Yeah. No, they're cool.
About
Oh, a lot of things. They're interesting. A set of mentors. They're interesting bunch. Interesting set of owners. They're cool in their own way. It's like the Avengers coming together and say, boom, I'm Thor, I'm ganyan, and kind of boom, and then they have this one building Avenger. So, and that's good, right? Third generation.
Yes, third generation.
Third generation, and they've done a lot through the years, and they had an ambition, and that's important to have an ambition. It always starts with that for me, because to have no ambition is already half dead. Why even work if you don't have any ambition? You gotta work till your tail falls off until you reach that goal.
Okay.
So that's my Nike thing coming out. So anyway, so they had an ambition, and they had a shared goal that was really well, nicely written to build love brands. And I was so immersed into that. And the value that I think I kind of poured in would be how. If we were agreeing on a North Star, all right, let's talk about how. And the how really is a function of perhaps the systems that we put in place. I always talk about, and of course, the folks back in the office would know this. I always talk about aligning the pipes, that the left hand should know what the right hand is doing. And I always say, do not mistake activity for meaning. Oh, I'm busy, Ariel, I'm tired. Yeah, but yeah, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean, right? Does it move the needle? Does it help us? Right? So those kinds of things. So it's the how. And the how really is we got to put it in configured in such a way that it's really about strategy. More than tactics. It's strategy. And just to agree on a definition of strategy, it is an integrated set of actions that give you an unfair competitive advantage. Hindi na nga competitive advantage, an unfair competitive advantage.
The next level.
The next level. That's like being brutally Nike on this one. So, all right. So, what is a strategy? Now, then after that, once you agree on that, that's a how. It's an integrated set of actions. Then you have to go through aligning your pipes so that they go into the same strategy, because strategy is I'm going to be nerdy on this one. It's a vector quantity, all right? It's a vector quantity, not a scalar quantity. It has both magnitude and direction. An activity has no direction. It just has magnitude with no direction. So that's the physics part, right? So, so
nosebleed.
sorry. I didn't know how to explain it.
No problem. That's okay. That's a good one.
Right. So, yeah. So, it's fun. It's fun working with them. It's a blessing. And without going through details, they have their own domains that you gotta respect because they've done it through the years, even when you weren't around. And it humbles you. It tells you that, you know what, you have something to learn also, which goes back to what I was saying, be a sponge.
How about humility? You should have to be humble also.
Oh yeah, be a sponge. You can't be a sponge without being humble.
Correct.
So yeah, it goes with that. It goes with that, right? So lahat, it just sama-sama na yan. The fit, the culture, humility to listen and learn, etc., etc. So, and then at some point, you have your own point. You have your own point of view too.
Of course, that's why they brought you in.
And then you go, pa. And that's when the magical things happen. Because iron sharpens iron. And that's good.
But I have another elephant in the room question.
Sure. Yes.
When you walked into Max's group, there were 3 generations already inside. Baby boomers like me, the Gen Xers like you, and the millennials, and now the Gen Z. So how do you make that potent cocktail work? Generations with 3 different thoughts and value systems.
Well, that's where your mindfulness comes in.
Okay.
And you always have to look at things in context. Context gives you perspective on why things are being said. Context gives you a point of view on what the motivation was of a certain input, of a certain question. And when you kind of put it in that perspective, then you go, all right, then we can all respond to this in a more objective way. And it's very important, and I underscore the point, objective. While I'm passionate in a discourse, the mind has to be churning objectively. And really understand what's being said, beyond what's being said, or beneath what's being said. And I guess some level of maturity would be helpful, frankly. for you to put it in context and have something that's better understood, even if everyone were coming from different generations. And to be honest with you, right? Even the principals and family members, it's not as if anyone pushes his weight around or weight around. I don't think that was ever the case. Because they really want to run it professionally, understanding that there are certain expectations from a publicly listed company. And as I've told you, they understood that as early as 2014, and they've made an effort by getting us professionals. I came in 2017, and then I got in some pros as well from the FMCG business. We have a certain language, like we can complete each other's sentences. Na I'm sure in retail that's true, so true. But you know what? Ang kagandahan niyan is that even the board is and the owners, they're trying to get that language back, and then we complete na, and then we're trying to get their language back too. Some of the words I use now that didn't come from me 5 years ago, but I got that from them, right? And so there's like osmosis and reverse osmosis happening. We make everyone better. All
So
right.
when you're looking for employees, what would you look for?
All right. So
regardless of generation.
I'm sorry.
Regardless of generation, what are the employee traits you look for? It's more so now in the pandemic.
That's a good question, right? So you know how HR is? Mother HR people listening here. They have a long. They have
That's okay. That's okay.
They have a long list, really, quite a long list. And I learned this, frankly, from one of our companies before, Unilever, and in Nike, we also do this. I don't know how it is now, but it's really about BSP, brains, socials, and power.
Brains, socials, and EQ, IQ?
Brains, yes. Socials, and power.
Okay.
All right. So brains, those come the technical skills. The ability to integrate a lot of moving parts into one cohesive problem, so that you solve the problem in a more integrated way. The ability to have systems thinking, that's brains. All right. The socials part would be more of the fit, more of the ability to naturally get along with certain members of the team, certain culture, certain fit, the stuff that I mentioned earlier, respecting rich heritage. But it's okay to look at the past, but don't stare at it kind of guy, right? So that's socials, right? And then power. I need you to communicate. I need you to lead. I need you to verbalize. I need to be a vocal leader in the dugout kind of guy. Because sometimes you may be the smartest.
Right.
You may be the funniest socially, but you're not articulating it in such a way that people get galvanized and inspired of this singular vision that we're trying to achieve. So there, a lot of leadership, half of it at least, is communication. So we're looking for leaders, not just businessmen, right? We're looking for leaders, not just technicians, i.e. brains. We're looking for leaders, not just guys who are like he's everyone's favorite, i.e. socials and teamwork, etc.
Mr. Congeniality.
I was looking for that word. Thank you so much.
Mr. Congeniality.
Correct. Pero kailangan ganoon. So that's what we're looking for. And you know what? As I've said kanina, leadership knows no titles. You may be a manager, assistant manager, whatever. Yeah. Maybe my guy in the kitchen or in the commissary, but I know when the going gets tough, you're the guy who leads.
And let's talk about the going gets tough. March 2020, the pandemic hit us.
Okay? Oh yeah.
You and I know what the effect is.
Yeah.
How did, starting off first with you, how did the pandemic affect you personally? Then we'll go to your company.
How did it affect me? More than anything, I was worried about my kids,
Okay.
because that's just, as family
Yeah.
persons, that's how we're wired. As worried about my nanay, on how kind of tough this situation is. I was worried about what she's eating and all those things. I mean, those are the things for me personally.
Yes.
Um, and that came in quick because we kind of say, all right, all right, all right, this is what we do with my siblings. Boom, done. Okay,
Okay.
next. Out of the way, out of the way. Of course, as a company, we talked it over with the leadership team. And not to pontificate, but in MGI, kasi we're always working on, particularly during the pandemic, with a certain architecture so that there is some order in the madness. All right. It's bad enough already that no one really knew what hit us. It's worse that you're gonna be running around, saying that the sky is falling. You gotta keep everyone calm and put everyone, gabi ko ngayon, context, perspective. It gives you a little bit of demeanor na kalma lang because we'll get through this. All right. So the structure that we have would be reflect, respond, and renew. And the reason why it's written that way is because we wanted everyone in MGI to understand that that was the game plan. It wasn't anything that was like hyperbolic. I won't understand what you're saying, Ariel. I want the restaurants and the commissary folks to understand what we were saying. The administrative, I want everyone to understand what we were doing. So together we were going to go through this. All right. So it wasn't like a 20-page memo. Obviously, we won't do that. But reflect, respond, renew. Then we kind of put underneath each pillar what it meant. All right. So in reflect, it was basically understanding what the situation was, what the dimensions of the court are, what the rules are,
Right.
so that you know how to play and you know how to win. If you didn't know what game you were playing, if you don't know the rules, how do you win? So it was very basic, and we understood. We realized that we kept a pact that the soonest you went from reflect, respond to renew, bam, 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 it was better for you because there was no self-pity mode in that one. It was like, let's do this. I don't think there was any space, time, moment for any self-pity. We were going to fight this through. That came from me. That came from the leaders in the room. And I'm blessed to have a leadership team who thinks that way too. Mahalaga yun, that you kind of think the same way. Think the same way. So reflecting is understanding what the rules of the government were, and naman at that point, they were like, midnight briefings and then kind of change in the morning and you didn't really understand. So that was reflecting.
Okay.
Okay. Respond. And that was the basis for response. The response was that first things first, we take care of our guys. We take care of our company. We take care of our employees. Make sure that our employees won't do anything out of the ordinary as of yet. Stay home. Make sure that they were safe. They followed rules. And they had peace of mind that we were going to take care of them. And we did. Our HR folks were very mindful about it. I mean, we're in a food business, we're a food company. So that part of the deal was, the equation was solved, addressed. We also took care of our communities. I don't know, CJ, if you'd remember, I wish you would. We did pledge a plate. We gave restaurant quality food to our frontliners. That was the right thing to do. No questions asked. And that to me was culture. You didn't have to write culture for me in 5 pages. That to me was culture, and I saw it. And going back to, respect to the board and the family. Bam! I mean, let's do this. Like, boom, let's do this. Take care of our communities. And if you want to post-rationalize that commercially,
yes,
if you took care of your community, they will take care of you back. You wouldn't want to let them down. They wouldn't let you down either. And up to this point, the communities, take care of us. They wouldn't want Pancake House to go down. That's why Pancake House in this location, may mga fans pa rin siya. Because the community remembers that when we were in our darkest hours, you did not let us down. That's how the ecosystem works. That's how the world works. So that's a beautiful story to tell. So we did that for 3 weeks. I remember we were like serving more than 50 hospitals. Walang ano yun, walang tigil yun. No question.
Catering already.
Yeah, giving them meals that ready to eat. Obviously, you know, ayaw naming pahirapan pa sila, ready to eat na. Restaurant quality food. And we served more than 100,000 meals, you know, in the 3 weeks.
Wow.
So anyway,
if I cost that,
wag na lang.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no questions asked yon, and it was the right thing to do. Okay. We took care of our franchisees. Not just kumusta na kayo, what can we do, but also we extended some help as we had to, as you know, in the retail front space.
Yes.
Oh, and I'm sure you did for our peers as well in the industry.
Yes.
No? So, because we are an ecosystem, right? Kapit bisig tayo. So, I think that's a beautiful thing coming up. All right, so respond, bam, and then renew. All right, which is the more exciting part?
Which I wanted to ask you, because there's too much suffering porn.
I hate to say this, but I think I'll say it because I'm just who I am. We did not waste the pandemic.
What's the key learning? Did you learn anything from the pandemic?
Oh, a whole lot. You know what? I'll go to the end, and then I'll kind of do a Marvel and kind of do you.
Yeah, because I saw the news items. Very interesting.
You know how it is when you see a butterfly?
Okay.
You can't be loving that butterfly without appreciating that ugly caterpillar that comes before that.
That's what it was.
All right. Okay. So we're now seeing virtually a whole lot of butterflies roaming around MGI. All right. And that's because of the ugly caterpillar that came before that in the form of COVID. But hey, with all due respect to COVID, if COVID were a person, this is what I'll tell COVID. You know, you gave us an opportunity to sharpen our compass to true north. You gave us clarity on who we can become more than who we are at this point, i.e. leading casual dining operators in the country. And you taught us that we could work on things, magical things that we wouldn't have otherwise imagined if things were normal. If things were like 2019, perhaps, just perhaps, the things that you read in the papers today or here wouldn't have been there yet. But I'll tell you this, they were already in the pipeline. So what's the magical thing? In 2020, the date was for us March 16. I don't know why. Yeah, March 16.
Yeah, that was the day, the D-Day.
The D-Day, no? All right.
D-Day.
As soon as that happened, of course, we did Pledge a Plate, as I told you.
Right.
We compressed 3 years of strategy into 3 quarters of execution. And the goal was that to come back roaring in 2021. Marketplace permitting, of course. All right, so I'll elaborate on 3 years of strategy compressed into 3 years of execution. So you'd imagine, CJ, of course you do this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You have a rolling 3-year strategy where your x-axis was like obviously the years, and the y-axis were your tentpole events of strategy, and you had 2 S curves. And you understand that you want to go from here to here and here to here at a certain time of in the 3 years, right? Okay. Right. On March 16, we put that blueprint in front of us and we go, which among these things are now trash?
Reality check agad. Reality check.
Ariel, I worked on it. Nope. That has to go. Next. Which among these things have to accelerate? Oh, these things. All right, bring them in, put some resources there. Now, which of the things that we require aren't here? Oh, shoot, Ariel, dami niyan, dami niyan, dami niyan. All right, so kudos to the leadership team because, again, BSP, so I got those guys with me. They make me feel good, look good. Frankly, I'm just trumpeting stuff for them, but they did all the work. So we kind of recrafted that and we did it in 9 months, 3 quarters. No stopping. No stopping. It sounds cliche, but we failed fast. But the important thing is that when we fail fast, we also learn quick. Otherwise, the failing has no merit.
So you're not afraid to fail?
Oh no. Oh no. Ever since. I guess that's how I'm wired. And I've failed a whole lot of times. But we won't talk about that, not for today.
It's the learning and standing up again. It's important.
Oh yeah. It just makes you better, stronger, more equipped in that sense, no? So 3 quarters of execution.
To prep you for 2021.
2021. And of course, in 2021, as we all know, Jan and Feb were pretty okay. And then we had dips in March, April, May because of whatever.
Right.
And then again, up again, and then dip again in August, September. And sana ngayon, tuloy-tuloy na. No? In November, December. So what did we do? What did we do? All right. So everything that I kind of described earlier in terms of BSP and strategy and whatever, aligning the pipes, that was in full force. And frankly, it was mighty difficult because obviously it's online. It's not as if, and my style kasi is I have an easel board in front of me, I will write it. And like, pag di pa tayo nagkaintindihan, ewan ko na lang kind of guy, right? Okay. It's hard. I mean, sure, you had quite a bunch as well. It's pretty hard. And so we had to work on very strategic shifts. All right, simple lang. And then we worked on certain domains. Para simple lang. Brand, product, retail, supply chain, and business models. That's it. Okay, so for brand, the strategic shift that we've done was that, as everyone knows, we've got quite a number of good brands. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, some of which you have with you. Yeah, thank you, CJ. Ayan, ayan. All right. Seriously. Okay. And we focused on our core 4. Maxis, Pancake House, Yellow Cab, Krispy Kreme. And the others we've tactically assigned in the cloud. All right. And the way to teaching this in a bigger community, set of employees, teams, is that, you know how Marvel is? The language. Yes. In Marvel, who's the core 4? Of course, you Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Spidey, All right. We'll also have our core 4. Not to say that the others weren't as important, but in terms of first among equals, these are the first among equals. And when we did that, we were able to retrain our thoughts into focusing on those core 4 to go up, at least, be stable, right? And manage our own asks for the others because they were in the cloud anyway. And I'll discuss that later on. Now for product, this is the philosophy that we have. We worked on finite materials for infinite creations. I know it sounds poetic, but that's how people remember.
Whoa.
So that's the Procter and Gamble coming out, right? Finite materials for infinite creations, and it has a lot to do with last mile innovation.
Okay.
Right. So I'll only allow you rhetorically 100 raw materials. You give it to the chef. Chef whips up something that's like 1,000 menu items from those same 100 materials across the brands. And the beautiful thing is that if you have just 100 raw materials, so to speak, shared across the different brands, wastage is reduced.
Right.
You leverage in volume because it's the same supplier, and so on and so forth. And coming from an innovation background, innovation doesn't always have to come from the upstream part of technology. Sometimes it's in the back stream or the downstream part of technology, where 95%, at least I was working on soaps before, was the same. And then in the last mile, you just stamp it differently. You put a different perfume, you put a different color in soaps, and then boom, you market it as a different brand.
Right.
No different here. We all have chicken. We all have rice. We all use oil. A lot of the brands use dairy. A lot of the brands use protein. What harmonization can you do? So the way we explain it to our employees, if it sounds a little bit too complicated, is this. We're big fans of Lego. Yes? Yes. All right. In your Lego box, check it out. It only has 100 pieces. Yes? Yes. Okay. How many buildings can you make from that? How many airplanes? How many figures can you do from that? Armed only with your imagination. And then they get it. All right. So that's the product philosophy. In doing so, we were able to transform the product mix and of course the margins that go with it. A lot of hard work from our marketing folks, our technical people who work on product, and of course the commissaries. Then in retail, which is where you guys come in. Oh God, in retail, right? It's about really collaborating with you, and we appreciate the help that you've given us and our peers in the industry, because as I've said, we're in an ecosystem. The one that I appreciate most, beyond the transactional piece, of course, that we both know, is the business development part. I think in one of our meetings, you talked about that as well, right? Because, in your domain, in your space, aside from the retail spot out there, you have your own ecosystem where merchants like us could say, hey, is there anything that we could do from a business development standpoint so that the top line remains at least stable man lang, even in this quarantine condition. So that's very, very important. No, of course, outside of the spaces that we have, say in the malls, we're also with independent lessors, and we've worked with them in having alfrescos, park and dine, curbside pickups, etc., etc. So what is the learning there? For me, in the retail piece, there's a philosophy again that we follow. The philosophy is see space differently. Have the ability to repurpose space. And for us, it was just about sticking Krispy Kreme in some corner and bahala ka na sa buhay mo kind of thing, because that won't work, right? It was about mindful use of space and seeing it in context against its backdrop, because it has to add value to that space that it was occupying. So it's a good thing that we have guidance from that point as well, from MGI, from the system. And then supply chain. In supply chain, what we've done was that we've consolidated our commissaries and our hubs, and that's why we have this world-class facility in Carmona right now. And dyan papasok na rin, I guess, the next part is business model, which is actually the most interesting part, if you'd ask me, because this is at the cusp of the business revolution. So obviously, everyone knows us to be, leading casual dining restaurant operating in the country. Most loved, most respected brands, rich heritage, etc. That's fine, right? What we've done was that we've put that at the center, and we've plotted our ecosystem such that what are those one-step adjacencies that would make sense for what we have right now? Because number one, the chances of it being successful are higher. And number two, we're going to be utilizing current assets anyway. And we're not going to be betting on something that on the unknown. And I underscore one-step adjacency because, sorry, I'm going to be referring to a book on this one, one of my favorites, Profit from the Core, Chris Zook. That basically tells you that the farther you are from the core, one-step adjacency, two-step, three-step adjacency, the chances of you being successful are kind of 0 to none. All right. And there's a science to doing one-step, two-step, three-step adjacencies on is this 2 steps? Is this 3 steps? Is this like 1 step? That's 1 step. Put it in. No, that's 3 steps. Move it out. I'm not going to bet on something that's like unknown. All right. So that's the commercial part. Anyway, so going back the one-step adjacency. The one-step adjacency led us to evolving as well to being merchants. I'll go to this later on. Distributors. I'll go to this later on. And manufacturers. All right. So at this point, while we, of course, welcome people in our stores, we miss you, welcome back. In the stores we have with you, in the stores we have with other mall operators, we also are aware that the consumers have changed.
Yes, let's talk about that. That's a pandemic evolved customer.
Yeah, and so have we. All right. A lot of them have learned to prepare stuff at home. Of course, minsan fatigue na, but a lot of them have learned to kind of mix this with that, or they kind of miss maxes, but they don't know how to get it delivered or whatever, for whatever reason. No problem. Are you doing grocery? Yes, ma'am. I'm in more than 200 doors already in supermarkets, groceries, convenience shops. You could see me there. Oh, really? Yeah. There's Max's Fried Chicken in supermarkets right now in groceries. There's Yellow Cab frozen pizza. All the favorites lang, ha. There's the Teriyaki Boy Chicken. There's, of course, Densho Sisig. And there's Pancake House Spaghetti Sauce, among others. Right? So your favorites are now in a different space, and you'd enjoy it perhaps in a different moment of consumption. It's not necessarily delivered. It's like you preparing it just because you want to mix it up with your own kare-kare or whatever it is that you kind of do well at home. So that's a difference. So we're now merchants because we are in supermarkets. We're also now distributors or in distributorship because the same products that I mentioned are now with distributors. All right. So shades of FMCG, CG, which of course is where we came from. Modern trade, general trade, terms of trade, the architecture that goes with that, the thinking that goes with that, the merchandising strategy that goes with that. It just comes full circle. Full circle. Not that we planned it.
But it's a business revolution.
The business revolution.
But I was looking at your numbers. It's a double-digit growth on top line and bottom line.
Fortunately, yes. There's a double-digit growth in top line. Right. 9 months, 10%. Quarter 3, 28%. Of course, August and September were bad. Right. But 28% is still 28%. Perhaps could have been higher.
Super higher than inflation.
Talk to me about inflation.
Exactly.
Fuel prices and all that. All right. So anyway, yeah. And then there are a whole lot of efficiencies in the middle to help us survive and thrive. Essentially, what we've done in the box economics is that we've lowered the break even, say from a 100 index this time to 60. So even if you had hit 60% of your pre-pandemic level, you'd be fine. And that's a whole lot of thinking right there. Just putting a whole lot of math on how we do that. So, yeah.
But if I take everything you're saying about how the business revolution happened, deep inside, what really fueled it? What characteristics, your characteristics, the owner's characteristics that fueled this business revolution?
You gotta start with passion. There's nothing that gets done without fire in your belly. And you swear to yourself that you wouldn't let this down, not in your watch. And personally, for me, it was personal.
I'd like to hear this.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to hear this. For you, it's personal.
It's personal, yes. It was a mission for me. I wouldn't let my team down, just as they've always had my back. I thought it was going to be unfair if I kind of gave up or anyone gave up. Nah, no way. We're not that kind of a bunch. We always talk about Are you in my foxhole? Are you in my foxhole? Yes, I'm in your foxhole. What else do I have to prove? You are in my foxhole, right? So the bunch that I have, they're in my foxhole. Right now, we're like here na. You kind of want to go up.
People
Yeah,
just keep into the foxhole.
you're peeping now only to find out someone, boom, kind of hit you. But it's that kind of mentality, right? It all starts with that. Nothing gets done without passion. You didn't really want to give up on that one. Also, it was an opportunity for us to do something special. How many times in your life would you be in a position to lead a transformation? In fact, transformation nga for me is such a soft word right now. To lead the revolution, right? I don't think there's a whole lot of times. I'm not hoping that there's not.
No, but this is a 1 in a million, once in a generation kind of opportunity.
Right.
A Darwinian experience.
Right. And that was something special. Now we talk about full cup. I think everyone has kind of poured this cup on this one. Binigay ko na. Binigay ng lahat yan. Hindi lang ako. Lahat binigay na yan. So hand it over to the teams. Stores, commissaries, offices, everyone in the departments, lahat yan. Strength in numbers. That's for real. Everyone understood what had to be done. Isang kumpas. Do it. And then, awa ng Diyos, nakakaawa naman tayo. So, yeah, kudos to the team.
And your numbers show it. Now, let's go to
sustain the sana.
Well, we'll see. Pray, hope always comes in. Let's talk about the pandemic evolved customer of restaurants. You said, they're not trying to enjoy the food in a different setting. What else have you noticed about them? May that have changed in the past 5 years?
Oh yeah, marami-rami. Like I observed my own household here, and we kind of changed, right? No, I think as far as the consumers go, I think that there are behaviors that will stay.
Yes.
And there are behaviors that will change, right?
Let's go to stay.
Right. So the ones that will stay would be they're always going to go for craveable food because it's something that you obviously put in your body. It nourishes you. It gives you a whole lot of satisfaction. And you want value for your money.
Okay.
Hard-earned money, lalo pa ngayon.
Exactly.
So what that means to us is that product is king. You got to be consistent. You got to be standing for the same things you stood for prior to the pandemic. If it's Max's Fried Chicken, maintain, or if in fact make it better. If it's an OG of Krispy Kreme, unapologetically sweet, something like that.
Oh yes.
So if it's your tacos for Yellow Cat, prepare it in such a way, whether it was do it yourself or the restaurant that they enjoyed it before. So that was gonna stay. Perhaps the way they consume it will be different, but are you still craving for it? That has to stay. All right.
Craving for it. I must have so much here.
Thank you, CJ.
With a yellow pizza.
Oh my gosh, New York's finest.
That's right. Craving for it.
Oh, yun. So craveability. Teriyaki boy. All right. So yun, craveability should stay. How you consume it, how you reach out for it could be different. And that's why we go to delivery. Right? Delivery is going to stay.
And I'm here with a box. Delivery.
It's going to stay. It's going to stay. It's going to stay. And that's why we've reconfigured our stores in such a way, of the new ones, in such a way that they now have smaller footprint. And we're mindful that, if these things happen again, knock on wood, right? We were going to be a little bit more prepared. It was what we refer to as an accordion model. If dine-in happens, then it's going to have dine-in. Otherwise, it's going to be al fresco. And then you have legitimate spaces for takeout. You have legitimate spaces for delivery. For our mga kasamang aggregators and the riders, you got to give them honor. You got to honor them and tell them, dito Dito kayo upo to wait for your food. Because understandably, when the pandemic hit us, we got to do makeshift dito upo. Not that there was something wrong in that, but you actually want to give them honor because they're helping you and your business
Right.
and your brand and your company.
Right.
So yeah, so you gotta give them respect.
So what will go? What shopper behavior will go?
I think the dust has to really settle. You know how it is when level 2, boom, alert level.
Kids back in the mall, yay!
Level, huwag na sana tayong bumalik.
Oh, please.
Higher number, a higher level. You know what? And I think the consumers and the people in general have learned to live with it, but it's, but let the dust settle. Let the dust settle on that one. Now, what my learning is this. My learning is not to bet on one horse. You always need to, in a way that applies to the session for today, you kind of always have to identify a number of horses that you want running, so that if this one falters, then you have others, still carrying the load for you. That much we've learned from a brand point of view, from a product point of view, etc., etc. So let's see, but for sure, delivery. At least everyone's seeing that, obviously. One of the things that I think would stay, because we've all learned this part, is that it's always best to be part of an ecosystem. Unless, of course, you're too liquid to actually do everything. But actually, even if you had that ton of money, I don't think that'll work, because there are certain skill sets that other people have, which you don't. So for instance, we're not a technology company, right? We're not a technology company. There are suppliers, partners out there who know technology, who breathe technology, who spend for technology every so often, because that's in telco, that's what you do, spend technology. That's why it's high cap.
Right.
It's quite different in food, as you know. All right, so you want to just partner with them, all right? Because if you did things on your own, that's your spend, perhaps that's your capex, and that's not smart use of money. You actually want to be partnering with someone and just work on a certain level of OPEX that both of you were quite comfortable with, versus capex, right? So that much I think will stay. And when you look at the value chain of technology, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with this, not to pontificate, the value chain of technology, particularly in delivery right now, is like there's the discovery stage. Ooh, I saw this brand, right? And there's the payment stage. I ordered for it, and I'm willing to pay for it. And there's the fulfillment stage. Now I have it delivered, right? So in simplest terms, at least that's in my mind right now. But there are a lot of details there, which of course are there, right? Okay. You will see that there are aggregators in each of those domains. There's an aggregator that's super focused on the discovery stage. Yun yung kanyang world-class competence. And there's another aggregator on the payment stage. And there's another aggregator on the fulfillment stage. You know what's happening right now? They talk to each other. So the ones who's here talks to someone who's here. The one who's here talks to someone who's here, so on and so forth. And before you know it, you have an aggregator of aggregators. And even partners like you, the ones in the malls, you have your ecosystem too. So we all are in that ecosystem. And you know what you want to do is you want to participate in every ecosystem, because you want to let the horses run, as I mentioned. Now, of course, the other thing is that you have to kind of just assess what value it brings, because there's a certain cost that goes with that.
Right.
And say, all right, perhaps I do this and not do this and whatever. But those are details now. But I think those things will continue to happen, not just for us as your branded food products, but also from a mall operation point of view, from a retail operation point of view, I think to actually have that digital ecosystem is something that has to continue. That's a change. That's a fundamental change. And I think from, I guess, your point of view, and you guys know your stuff more than I do. It begs the question, strategically, how will you see your space differently in a way that changes the ecosystem as well.
And that's another business revolution.
That's a business revolution,
That's
right?
another business revolution.
So kind of again, embrace your cactus and you go, all right, let's do this because yeah. So we go into again, right? Be a sponge, master the fundamentals, and what got you here won't get you there.
And
So that's pretty much the story, wrapped around I think for MGI, balancing continuity and renewal, because as we say in Nike and we say in MGI right now, there's no finish line. There is no finish line. You just gotta keep evolving, and that's the way it goes.
And with that, I'd like to ask two more questions.
First of course.
So, such a fun and insightful discussion. Okay, let's start off with 2022 crystal ball question. What do you see? What's there in 2022?
You know what? We just had an analyst briefing yesterday.
Okay, and what did you tell them? What did they tell you?
This is a standard response from my end.
Wag naman Miss Universe answer. Okay.
No, it's actually it's a masungit question. Okay, answer. If I knew it, I'd be richer by now. So, but as I said, let the dust settle. But we're optimistic. We're cautiously optimistic. If you look at where we are right now after 9 months, and what November brings, and what the holidays bring, and God willing, we keep the infections in check, and the boosting guidelines are up. Then perhaps the worst is over. And the universe has to conspire to make it happen.
Even with the elections coming in May.
I didn't mention that. Ikaw talaga.
Doesn't that affect you? Do you think there is a benefit with election coming in from a business point of view?
From a business point of view, the answer is yes. Largely because when it's elections, there's the people are kind of a little bit more inspired to consume food, among other things. So yeah, so we welcome it, and obviously we're preparing for it. We remain focused on the consumer, CJ. So the consumer needs.
And this is where I end the podcast because we might get shut down after 1 year.
No. Yeah, I think
that's words of advice to our audience before I say thank you.
Oh my God, I am in no position to give any advice.
From where you sit after surviving almost 24 months.
I'm a little mouthpiece for what the troops, the people of MGI have done. Respect goes to them, credit goes to them. A lot of respect to our board, our owners, the family, Trota Fuentebella families for guiding us along the way as well. They are our inspiration. We wouldn't let them down, not for a single moment. And we hope we're doing things that makes the first and second generations proud as well. That's always in our minds, because at the end of the day, we're just responsible custodians. Yeah, just with a lot of humility, we accept the challenge. We accepted the challenge. I think we've been fighting this through. That's pretty much. I'm just telling you our story. No wise words from me. I'm sorry, I'm not the guy to do that for you right now.
It's so inspiring, Ariel. Thank you so much for spending time.
I enjoy this though. Maraming salamat.
And we enjoyed it too. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, friends of the Philippine Retailers Association. Let's talk retail, our podcast with Mr. Ariel Fermin, the president of Max Group Incorporated. This is CJ Hesena of the Shangri-La Plaza. thanking you, and we hope you learned a lot from Ariel. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye-bye.